And guest, not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Shannon Square Rental Properties and Chapman and Plama Law. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Cassidy Fowler, your host, and today I'm joined here with
Kane Stringer.
Nice. So
Say that again. I want to make sure we hear clearly.
Kane Stringer.
Kane.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Very cool. What a great name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of news in the recent weeks that we've been absent. Sorry for that. And we want to start off by last night's big hit, the Democratic debate.
Yes.
The first one of this.
The 2020 season.
Yep.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So this was the second tier of candidates running for president.
The first tier will be tonight.
Correct. And there was I believe 10.
10 last night.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts, and who do you think performed the best, and do you think that they said anything that was notable or worthwhile?
Well, I think
presidential.
I think that definitely going into the debate, a lot of people assumed that Elizabeth Warner was going to be the leader, and I think that definitely stuck with its word, and that she really led the debate. I don't know if she had the majority of the time. I think
she did.
Yeah.
She did get quite a bit of time.
I think that she got at one point 4 questions, while some of the candidates only had 2. So a lot of time was allocated to her.
Right.
And I'm really surprised that they didn't choose to attack her during the debate, that they chose to really dig on a different candidate. I believe the Texas...
Yes, Beto O'Rourke.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Since he wasn't... I'm surprised that they chose to... kind of focus the attacks on him rather than her, since she was more of the threat.
Yeah, he came out of the gate when he first announced very strong, but then the interest in him seems to have waned. And but so he's an interesting character, that's for sure. He does videos of him getting haircuts and talking about stuff, and so he's just an interesting guy. So, but yeah, we wish him well, and we look forward to the second round of debates tonight. Vice President Biden will be there with another 8 other candidates, right?
I'm really surprised that they didn't even bring up Joe Biden once during the entire debate. Yeah, I think that's going to be focused on tonight with the more heavy hitters.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Kane?
I agree that Senator Warner took home most of the questions. I think that she had a lot to say, and she got it out well.
You thought she performed well?
I do think she performed well. And then,
so did any of the questions go to some of the one of the things she talks about is I want to see if I want to word this correctly. So she wants college to be paid for, right? All right, so I guess you guys getting ready.
That'd be nice.
All right, so somebody has to pay for that.
I don't know how feasible that is.
Right,
That's the problem.
Right, and then she wants single payer Medicare for all. Right, that type of system. Yeah. How's that going to work? She wants to make, as I understand it, she wants to make the current system of medicine, as far as the insurance carriers, and I'll make that all illegal.
Yeah, the private practice.
Private practice, totally illegal.
And I don't think that that's totally right. I think that options should be given to those that are able to pursue the private practice route.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that option should be totally eliminated.
Right. So that's pretty interesting that the so the giveaway. So we're going to do the Robin Hood thing, right? We're going to take from the rich and give to the poor.
Yep.
And but we don't know how we're going to do that exactly.
hmm
But
It's
it
nice
sounds
on
good.
paper. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice on paper, but actually following through with the words is the question.
Right now, Bernie Sanders, I guess he'll be in the group tonight.
Yep.
Now, Bernie Sanders at least came up with some, well, I don't agree with it, but at least he has a mathematical formula. He said he wants to tax Wall Street
hmm
24%, I think, is the number he came up with to finance some of these giveaway programs.
hmm
So, but at least he has
He has a plan,
he's
unlike
thought
some
about
people.
it. Yes, he's thought about it. What else?
I think it was really interesting how 3 candidates decided to speak in Spanish because I think that's
They just
Yeah.
launched into Spanish, right?
It was even funny because I think that those 3 candidates planned on speaking Spanish before, and the first person that decided to speak in Spanish, another candidate made a very
He made a face.
a face, a very bad face.
When the first candidate started talking in Spanish, the second one who had planned it,
Ah.
his face when he saw the other guy talking was
It's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing type
Mhm,
of face,
and that
right?
that
Screen
has
capture
been
of that
memed
is-
at least in our generation over social media.
Uh-huh.
Yep, all over the place you see the 2 candidates.
So would it be fair to refer to that as pandering since they were in Miami?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's just trying to convince people to just look their way.
Mhm.
look at what they're
Pandering.
doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you could.
I think
you
it
can,
was
you
smart
know,
though.
dress it up any way you want, but that's
Mhm,
essentially.
pandering, yeah. I think that it was a smart move though. Like I don't think that they lost anything from it.
Right. But I
Mhm.
mean, it's like, hey, by the way, I speak
Yeah.
Spanish, just in
Yeah.
case you
The
didn't know.
please, the minority vote for me.
Right.
Yeah. Since
Yeah.
I think that Hispanics are right now in our country the biggest minority.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
ironically, they have been. The Democratic Party is wooing them,
hmm
but culturally, I think they more. It's my belief that they more closely align. Even the Black community, I believe,
Mhm.
more closely aligns with conservatism,
hmm
family, that sort of thing.
I think that media just kind of corrupts the, I guess, Republican view a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, they skew. They tell you what they want you to hear,
not-
and they forget about reporting all the news.
yeah.
The
Mhm.
things that really don't weigh nicely for the folks on the left. They
Mhm.
just conveniently,
Disregard it.
yeah, they
Yeah.
forget about discussing it.
Shove it
Yeah,
under the rug.
yeah. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi abruptly backed down today from her push to include restrictions on immigration enforcement and a must-pass border funding bill, moving instead to bring a bipartisan Senate version for a vote following intense pressure from Republicans and moderates in her own party. At stake was a critical $4.5 billion bill to combat the humanitarian crisis at the southern border, which lawmakers want to pass before Congress leaves for the 4th of July recess. The Senate already approved its bill of 84-8 on Wednesday after rejecting the earlier House version. And so that I thought that was pretty interesting how that all kind of played out, because the House version was had poison pills in there, the earlier version, and the Senate wouldn't even take it up. They go,
Mhm.
no, we've got our own bill. We're going to do it right, and apparently they did, because it passed with an overwhelming majority of the Senate.
I think what's also interesting relating to like at least the Supreme Court, how the 2020 census, the
Yes.
question that Donald Trump was attempting to pass
Well-
is now blocked. Apparently, I think
Yes,
there's still a
so-
chance.
So this is the what you're talking about is the
Citizenship,
census.
yeah,
This-
census,
right.
Mhm.
And in every 10 years in the census, the government gets to ask you. So it's like a census committee,
Mhm.
right? And so this is a government agency. They do this so that they can determine basically how many voters are in certain districts, and it assigns a representation based upon population.
Mhm.
That's how the House of Representatives is really populated. So that particular question has been on the census before.
But hasn't it been a while?
Not relevant, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, it hasn't been on there.
Mhm.
It was, but so the Supreme Court says on a very narrow ruling, this is, well, because it really is not a Supreme Court question,
Mhm.
and they were smart to reject even hearing the debate, because if you're a government agency, you're charged with the responsibility of doing things.
Yeah.
Right. And so asking a legitimate question, and that is a legitimate question,
Mhm.
and whether you ask that question or not, again, that's within your purview of your agency. Okay.
Mhm.
So you ask the question or you don't ask the question, but it's your decision as that agency to ask that question.
Mhm.
There shouldn't be any oversight all the way up to the Supreme Court. So what the Supreme Court said is, and a narrow decision making, the lower courts can't answer any of those questions of whether or not it's appropriate or not, because it's not really for the Supreme Court to weigh in on that, because that agency has already been charged with the responsibility of doing its job. And that's just what, if that agency feels that that's part of what its job is to ask that question, then they should be allowed to do that.
Mhm.
So the president said, now he just recently came out and said, you know what, maybe we're just not going to do the 2020 census exactly on time.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that was even
I
brought
think
up.
that's a great idea.
Really?
So let's push it off until we can get this issue settled.
Mhm.
And I think that's fair, because if there's lower courts need to weigh in, fine.
Mhm.
I don't think it shouldn't even be in the courts, really.
Mhm.
But it is, so okay, let the lower courts sort it out and get a decision, and then we can move on. But so I don't always agree with this president, but I think that was actually was a creative and a smart decision.
Mhm. Has
Yeah.
that ever been done before, pushing back the census?
Well, not to my knowledge. Yeah. So, we have a caller. Could be Jen. Whoa. Hello, WSTU. Hey, how you doing? Stand by. Somehow I knew you'd be on the phone, John. How you doing, buddy?
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm a little
happy 4th of
depressed
July.
Did you watch Trump's rally in Orlando?
No, I didn't. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you thought.
Okay, I want y'all to. Yeah, this is a quote. I ran it back on my TV to make sure I got it correct. I wrote it down here. Democrats want to destroy you and destroy our country as we know it.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a political statement.
Do you agree with it?
It doesn't. I don't have any opinion. It's a political statement.
What do
So-
the kids
so-
think about it?
all right.
It's terrible. We
Okay.
wanted the Democrats want to destroy the country.
The Democrats say the same thing about the Republicans. So it's
No,
just it's
no.
it's referred, John. It's referred to as political rhetoric. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think you
It's
just
trash.
well,
It's garbage. It's
Okay.
awful.
okay. Well,
What do the kids think about it?
okay.
I think that that's a very exaggerated statement,
Mhm.
and that we, as a people, should try to get away from using such harsh and inaccurate terms, because
Mhm.
I feel like truly
I think he was referring more to the Democratic Party
As a
not-
whole, yeah,
right, and not Democrats as a group.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
but he oftentimes speaks in broad brush terms.
Mhm.
Yes. But anyways, that's my take on it.
I do believe that in his eyes, in Donald Trump's eyes, that he believes that the Democrats are trying to destroy America.
The Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party is
Yeah.
trying to destroy
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
So
Well, I think that's insane.
Well,
That's
you-
insane. We
that's-
love this country
you know-
just as much as the Republicans.
absolutely, and that's the beauty of it. You can think that it's insane, and I think that's okay that you can think that, and that's great.
Well, it's terrible for
Okay.
our president to be talking like that
Well, presidents
and-
have been using
and insulting half the United States of America. You know, half of us are. Matter of fact, I think there's more Democrats than Republicans, but Democrats don't vote as well as the Republicans.
All right. All right.
You know?
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Okay.
John. All right. buddy.
Righto.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you next week.
Okay. Bye. All right. So that's John giving us his thoughts from here in Stewart.
Yep.
John calls up to the national Fox News radio programming. So we get to hear from John nationally as well as locally. So we thank him for calling. But anyways, my personal feeling is that that things that are said on the stump, it's what they refer to as red meat, you know, because, and I'm sure that was like an applause line, attached to, what he says on the stump. And and I think if you listen to any of the speeches that the Democrat candidates will make, I'm sure they'll be just as
bashful. Yep.
Though they're gonna go for their red meat as well. So that's just what they do. That's part of politics. It's not for the weak at heart.
Oh yeah.
No, that's right. Kane is shaking his head. Absolutely, so true. So let's see. Now we got another about six minutes or so before we have to go to break. There was, and I guess I should find it. Maybe I'll look for it during break. But there was an article that I read briefly that came out, I guess, overnight in the news about a U.S. citizen, a female swimmer, was in the Bahamas. It was attacked by sharks. So, and you wanted to talk about the folks in the Dominican Republic, right?
Yeah. Also, recently we've seen in the news multiple deaths at resorts, especially in the Dominican
I think
Republic.
it's we're up to 12 in 1 year.
I believe so, which is remarkable. My goodness.
Right.
But a lot of them, people are suspecting that it's related back to
the mini bar.
The mini bars. Yep. That the alcohol within the mini bars isn't actually alcohol. It's actually a combination of antifreeze chemicals, which solidifies in your stomach. So obviously fatal. Right.
Yeah. Well, you got yes. Yeah, that's not good stuff. Antifreeze is not to be ingested.
No.
So and I guess the FBI is down there in the Dominican Republic, assisting the Dominican Republic authorities in trying to get some causality for the cause of death with some of the people that unfortunately did lose their life while on vacation there. So these people had no symptoms, no illness before they got there.
Yep.
And then suddenly they get a phone call at home. Your loved one's not coming home.
I know that the Hard Rock hotel franchise and casino is taking action by eliminating all mini bars within their hotels, it's a start. But I don't know if they're actually the culprits in this. I don't think that they are. They're just doing it kind of, I guess, to prevent.
As a protective measure, you know, just to let people know that they're at least put some thought into it, and it's not business as usual. I think I think those the mini bars, if you're going to have mini bars, should have those little bottles like they have on the airlines. Those are all sealed bottles, and they got the proper state or stamped paper, right, on the lid. So those are all sealed. Those are all government sanctioned, and it should be fine. If you're going to have, and I imagine on vacation, adult beverage in your hotel room is not an unusual course of action. So, but you should be able to do it safely and not worry about. Wow.
It's good to know that the FBI is down there helping with the investigation.
I think so. The Dominican Republic, the authorities there said that they're recently said that their equipment for doing some of the analyzation work was broken. And so and I think that's what they gave our agency kind of like, okay, we need to
take initiative.
So Yeah, so they're there, and the authorities down there said, well, I don't know. Some of the people, they just said they had heart attacks and things of that sort.
Hmm.
But I think they need to look more deeply into
For the commonality between the deaths. Yeah.
right, right, yeah, because there's got to be. Well, look at the hepatitis A
Yeah.
here. Talk about still trying to find the common thread. We still can't figure it out.
Yeah.
But Palm City seems to be ground zero, right,
Yep.
for most of the Martin County losses.
Hmm. And we still don't know the exact source of it. I know that there
No, we
were
don't.
assumptions that I heard by rumor that the source of it was at the Palm City Panera. And I don't know if that's actually true, but those like going around just word of mouth
Yeah.
is kind of deadly
That's
for
that's
business
terrible,
for sure. Yeah.
terrible.
I'm
But
sure that their business went down because of that.
the thing is, they're worried about fresh vegetables like lettuce and things
Mm-hmm.
of that sort. People that are handling the food. Generally, hepatitis A is spread through fecal contaminant, which is a pretty disgusting thought. So we don't know. We just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's there's every time they think they got a lead, they start running it down, and then they don't.
Doesn't add up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very strange
A
stuff.
lot of trial and error. Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, hopefully, they'll find the
Source to prevent it for future cases. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because we're way up this year on cases, and
Mhm.
we're only halfway through the year.
And it's only going to keep spreading until we find the source.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Opinions expressed.
Well, so the ideal thing to do, I suspect, is always wash your hands,
Mm-hmm.
and if you even have the slightest doubt, wash your hands again.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just stay safe out there.
Yep.
All right, and we'll be right back. So stick with us.
Welcome back to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum.
Right. Okay. And the next time.
Next time you're getting it, Kane.
Yeah,
All right,
you get
I
to
got
bring us back on the next break. Okay. Very cool. I mean, that's a tradition here at the radio
Yeah.
station.
He wasn't looking. He wasn't
Yeah.
paying attention.
It's all
Had to
right,
pick up the
sorry.
slack a little bit. Next time.
See, no dope slaps allowed, though. All right.
Nope.
All right. So the Supreme Court also did a ruling on the census, not the census, but the I want to get it right. There was a question about the gerrymandering decision, and so that came before the Supreme Court, and they sent it down to the lower courts.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they didn't want to weigh in. They said that's a decision that can be managed by the lower courts. That was a 5-4 decision.
Mm-hmm.
But Elena Kagan, she wanted to weigh in. She wrote the dissent, and she felt that this was an opportunity for the Supreme Court to really make law.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, and of course, the other Supremes said, no, that's not our job to make law, and we're going to let the lower court sort this out.
Deal with it. Yep.
Right. So, but there was a complaint that there was some gerrymandering. Each political party that's been in power over the years has done a little bit
The
of
gerrymandering.
yeah. And
Mhm.
and for our listeners that don't know what gerrymandering is when you move the boundaries of a particular district in favor of one party or another
Mhm,
for
to
the
gain
electorate.
majority. Yep.
Correct. So there's a little bit of that going on, no doubt about it. But it's again, it's not a decision for this. I think they smartly left that alone. The lower court should be able to sort that out.
Mm-hmm.
So very good. All right. What else do we got here? And my computer just jammed, thanks to CNN.
We could talk about the immigrant camps down by the borders,
Yes.
since that's pretty relevant in recent
Okay.
news. I know that I saw a headline just today with the words, I believe it was toothbrush and soap, which is pretty, though it's a simple 3 words, it's pretty
Mhm.
impactful and relevant today, saying that those things aren't provided for children within those camps,
Mm-hmm.
even though that they are supposed to be provided with safety and sanitary,
Right.
but they're not actually receiving that. And the dilemma is, what exactly is the definition of safety and sanitary?
Well, and so they're overwhelmed.
Oh, for sure.
Those facilities were built for populations based upon activities over the past 20, 30 years. And the last few years it's just been mind-numbingly different.
Hmm.
And so it's difficult to catch up. That's what that $4.5 billion is all about, by the way,
Hmm.
to bring, beds, and sanitary products to those environments, soap and toothbrushes and
Mhm.
so on and so forth, to create a good, clean environment. But these people, they already show up
Yeah,
in
sick.
bad health.
Yeah. Mhm.
Some of them have TB. There is a concern in Los Angeles County. You ready for this? Are you sitting down?
Oh, I'm sitting.
They're worried about bubonic plague
Oh my goodness.
because of the unsanitary conditions in Los Angeles.
Wow.
You got people that they have a homeless population there that is off the charts,
Hmm. And is only increasing.
defecating in the streets.
Hmm.
And this is what brought about the bubonic plague in England
Yep.
in the Middle Ages, and just a very unsanitary conditions
And overcrowding.
and overcrowding. Yes, yeah. So it's like you think you'd learn from history, but the
Yeah,
one thing
no.
we've learned from history is that we haven't learned from
No.
history.
And that history repeats itself.
It does, because
Mhm.
of people that fail to use historical guideposts as a good way to kind of navigate, for the future.
Hmm.
It's like, this didn't work out so well. Maybe we should do something a little bit different. Here's a thought.
Mhm.
I don't know. Oh my God. So
I thought it was really interesting, bringing it back a little bit to the Democratic debate, that Julio Castro, I really liked what he said about his plan for the current immigration issue.
Yeah, he's from Texas also.
Mhm.
Right.
So he said basically that we should allocate more funds to the problem countries, the actual source of the problem. And I think that is a good idea because you can't stop a problem without stopping the source.
Right.
But it's also dangerous because what if the funds that we're giving aren't actually used to their most beneficial
Just
point?
get
Yeah.
into the hands of a leader.
Yeah.
dictator.
Right.
Mhm.
So I'm stunned about this whole conversation about, because to a person, most of the folks in last night's debate,
Mhm.
they felt that we should just basically just open our doors, let people just kind of march on it.
Yeah,
That
which
was
is
that
a
was
little ludicrous. Yeah.
right. So you tried, even our neighbor to the north. Let's just say you decide you want to walk over to Canada and check it out.
hmm
Well, they're going to stop you.
Yeah.
They're going to say, we want to talk to you, and do you have the proper documentation,
hmm
and we won't let you in, period.
hmm
We're a friendly neighboring country, but no.
hmm
You have
You
to
know?
be secure.
Yeah.
So, why is it, what is it that the understood jurisprudence of how we're supposed to operate in a civilized society
hmm
works okay for other countries, but we're not allowed to exercise those same well-conceived notions?
hmm
I just have it's a head scratcher for me.
Me too. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So anyways, but that's just the world we live in
Yeah.
right now.
With our country's power, I think that we are put up against more difficult issues to solve, and we're expected to be the ones to solve them since we're the ones with the power, when in actuality, it's not really our problem. It's like the source country's problem for the immigration. Mm-hmm.
So I guess the late night comedians had some entertainment last
Ooh.
night about the debate as well, and they weren't so kind to Beto O'Rourke either. Let's see if I can find the actual article. But while I'm looking for it, did you guys get an opportunity to see the Falcon Heavy the other day launch at 2:30 in the morning?
I saw
Oh, the
pictures, but
SpaceX.
That
Yeah.
was SpaceX. Yeah, very, very cool.
hmm
That is like a must do. I mean, because all you have to do is just stick your head
and
outside,
then you'll see it. Yep.
because that thing, especially at 2:30 in the morning,
Mhm.
right? That is something that 5 million pounds of thrust,
Wow.
24 satellites in the payload bay of the top of the center core,
hmm
right? And when the thing launches, the side booster rockets, they pirouette, they leave, they come back, and they land side by side
hmm
at a landing pad
Wow.
near the launch pad, right? And it's very, very cool to watch. It's at night you can actually see them leaving
Wow.
the center core,
hmm
and then they fire their sending burn. But that is very neat to watch.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard it was a very complex launch
Yeah,
for
Elon
sure.
said it's the most complex launch to execute
Yes.
because of just the amount of pounds they're taking up, and as well as how they're
Right.
just getting off the ground.
Well,
These
and
extra thrusters.
right, yeah, and so all the different so 24 satellites, no two of them weighed the same, right? So how do you stow them in the payload bay, right?
Tetris.
Right? I mean, it's they had so they're doing one of the satellites, or one of the projects was sent up there to test solar wind.
hmm
It's the second one of those tests, and the whole notion is to be able to create a sail propelled by nothing but photons from the sun,
Wow.
light energy, just pushing it along.
hmm
How cool is that?
Remarkable.
Right? So that's pretty neat. But yeah, and they were able to deploy all 24 of those. The center core booster almost made it back. They had the ship that receives the booster when it's downrange. It's called, of course, I Still Love You.
Oof.
I don't. It's only Elon Musk could
great
think.
names, great
He's
names.
got all these goofy names, and it was like 700 miles or so downrange,
Wow.
and it almost landed on this platform,
Mm-hmm.
and it came down, and there were 3 engines had to light up exactly right. I think it ran out of fuel.
Mm.
And so one of the outboard engines, so it's, one center engine and 2 outboard engines of the 9
Mm-hmm.
is what they used for landing. And I think one of them didn't operate. And so it turned on its side and landed in the water,
Ooh.
but almost made it. It was like so close. It was very cool.
At least there wasn't a total catastrophe with the launch, like in
Oh, yeah.
past
Oh yeah.
launches. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No catastrophe.
Mhm.
And so yes. So anyways, that was pretty neat to watch. Of course, I was watching on my phone, my personal device, as
Mhm.
well as staying outside, because you got to wait nearly a minute after it leaves the launch pad. But this thing goes so fast, because faster than even the shuttle would go.
Mhm.
That is probably less than a minute, maybe 38, 40 seconds or so, and it was visible.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and it was off to the races. That thing, just amazing how they do that.
Mhm.
But yeah, fun to watch. But yeah, not that many Falcon Heavy launches, and so when you see those are really something to witness, because that's the biggest, most powerful current rocket in the world,
Wow.
and we've got it right here.
Mhm.
So that's pretty cool. You don't have to go anywhere else to see that. So that's
Yep.
kind of neat.
Good news.
Yes, indeed. All right. So we're going to take a regulation timeout. When we come back, Kane is going to bring us back.
Yep.
All right. So stay tuned for that.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hey,
Nice job, Kane.
good
Yay.
job. All right. Well done. Okay. Got your first radio gig going.
Yeah.
All right. So on this date in 1924, Democrats offer Mrs. Leroy Springs the vice presidential nomination. She is the first woman considered for the job. And how about that? 1927, on this date, the U.S. Marines adopt the English Bulldog as their mascot. And on this date in 1929, scientists at Bell Laboratories in New York reveal a system for transmitting television pictures.
Yep. And also in 1973, President Richard Nixon vetoes a Senate ban on the Cambodia bombing. Another interesting thing that happened this day in history.
It's very interesting.
Hang on. All right, we got Bob on the line. So he's got something profound to share with us. How you doing, Bob? Hang on, stand by. There you go. There he is.
Hey, you sound like you're on speaker there or something.
Am I on speaker? No.
No, you sound fine now.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, that's because I didn't have your your phone turned on. But now you're.
Love the debate. Love the debate last night.
You did. What did you like about it?
Oh, it's they give away more stuff than a car dealership, to show up.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, I thought of a new slogan. Whoever runs for president,
Yeah.
they're always jealous of our "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
I was thinking, buy none, get one free. It's just getting silly.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. Well, there's a
everything
reason
hurts.
why they call it the silly season, Bob.
I don't think a lot of those people. I think they just like the power and they want the job. I don't think they're intentionally trying to ruin this country.
No.
But
So-
via their policies, though, like open borders, they are.
If you or I decide to run for president under any banner, let's say the Democratic ticket, and we get to fundraise, and you get $1 million or $2, and if you don't spend all that money, there are provisions that allow for you to either give it to another candidate, or it could just end up being your money.
Yeah, some ways you can. I think that's why, like, Cory Booker's there. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, the mayor of North New Jersey, the carjack capital of the world,
Right.
the place is a freaking mess. It's a shame because
So
it's full
I
of
mean, it
these
is.
old.
It is a fun way to raise money in a hurry, and what it does do, another thing is that you've got presidential candidate on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, and you're on a panel, you get your fee can go up because you're a former presidential candidate.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, so it's all good.
Now, the census thing, I think I've listened to a lot of people saying it's never accurate. It's a waste. You're not going to, even like somebody said, if you're here illegally, you're not even going to fill it out, let alone put down that, no, I'm not legal. I mean, it's an old thing that should be going away with. We spent a lot of money on it. I mean, shame on us for not, after 9/11, having a national ID card for every legal citizen in this
Right.
country.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
the kids
we could just-
can't even leave the hospital these days without a social security card.
I think we
Yeah.
should just follow the Chinese model, Bob.
What's that?
Well, they got the facial recognition
Ooh.
software, and then everybody just gets tied into the database, and then every time you break the law, then they just the guys,
Penalize you.
yeah, they come, the guys in the jack boots come and collect you. So, I think that's
Well, they usually used to use the eye notification that recognized the eyes.
right. Retinal, yes. Hmm.
Yeah, that might be hard in China. I don't know.
Oh,
But, don't tell your old lady that.
oh my God. Wow.
Anyway, I hope they don't put first off, get us all national ID cards. It's getting ridiculous. But tonight, can you imagine if they put sniffy Joe Biden next to smelly Bernie Sanders?
It'll
Joe
be
will be
interesting.
sneezing.
Well, yeah,
He'll be sneezing all night. He'll
We-
be off his game.
we could find out what kind of cologne that Bernie Sanders wears, because if he gets a hug from Uncle Joe, he'll say, "Hey, you smell pretty good tonight, Joe."
I guess they
So-
called. They call Sanders smelly Joe or smelly Bernie because apparently he didn't have a house for a long time,
Oh yeah.
and now he's got like 4 mansions. or
Yeah, he's got
something.
4 mansions. Yeah, it really does pay very well to be a former presidential candidate. Yeah.
But his friends, I guess, used to make comments about his apartment was always a little dirty.
Oh, a little
Yeah.
dirty. Well, you look at his hair. He doesn't. I don't think he owns a comb. So.
No. He's funny. He's fun to watch. I'll give him that. I mean, he's total Sal Linsky and
Yeah.
William Ayers.
Yeah.
But all right, guys. Well, nice to talk to you, and good show.
Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate you calling in. Take care.
Take care, guys.
All right. Bye. All right.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very fun watching Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden interact tonight.
Yeah. So we'll stand by for that. We'll get a full report next week.
Yep.
Yes.
You got it.
All right. Very good. So what else is going on we want to cover? We want to talk about what?
What's going on in Hong Kong?
Hong
right now.
Kong.
Yep.
Yes.
So we haven't
Mhm.
touched on that before.
Right. So this is actually part of a continuation of a movement that got squashed a few years ago called the Umbrella Movement. And this actually sprung up because the leaders in Beijing asked for the Hong Kong government to pass a bill allowing for dissidents, people who break the law, to be sent to Beijing, sent to mainland China for prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, but it's okay. We will honor Hong Kong law, so don't worry about it. Well, the folks in Hong Kong don't have any confidence that the Chinese Communist Party will honor the current Hong Kong government notion of what rule of law is.
Yeah.
So millions of people have gone to the street.
Mm-hmm. They're in fear that they won't be an autonomous government anymore.
Right. So when Maggie Thatcher signed the paperwork, I think in '97,
Mm-hmm.
with the Chinese government, the agreement was that Chinese, although Hong Kong was ceded over to China at that time,
Mm-hmm.
China agreed that Hong Kong would remain although a Chinese possession, would remain independent for 50 years. We're only 20 some odd years into
Something
that.
like that. Yeah.
We've got another 20 years or so to go. And I think the Chinese government is feeling like they're feeling their oats. They feel like they want to move that process along a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And it's what it seems like to me. And I think that's what the folks on the ground in Hong Kong are thinking. And so 5 hours ago, there was this piece here on Fox News. Hong Kong protesters continue to press to demonstrate as leaders hide from the public. So the protesters in opposition to the legislation's proceedings regarding the extradition bill demonstrated outside the Department of Justice headquarters on Thursday to support judicial independence against China. So don't know really where that's going to ultimately go, but that's it's going to be a very interesting process.
Because it seems like the people don't really have much of a voice saying that the pro-China side of their government is in the majority of the law making body.
Right.
Yeah. Those citizens in Hong Kong might need some help in protecting themselves from being absorbed.
But
back
where are
into
they going to
China.
get it from? That's
Yeah,
the problem.
That's the problem. They are a Chinese possession, so they really have to. They're in a box. They're in a difficult position. They are feverishly pushing back against the Chinese Communist Party. It'll be very interesting. One way or another, the sanctions against China will be discussed in Japan during the G20 summit. President Xi and President Trump are scheduled to meet. President Xi has a letter of demands, which probably won't go down very well with this president.
Donald Trump.
So likely the sanctions will continue. And they actually had a handshake agreement. They had an agreement earlier, but the Chinese government kind of backpedaled on the deal. And that's what made the deal fall apart. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
If we can meet a compromise, that'd be
Yes.
nice, but don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
I know. No. So we got a couple more minutes. What else do we want
Yep.
to chat about?
So I saw a big headliner on Google News was that a woman in Alabama. Let me actually read the headliner for you.
Okay.
Alabama woman who was shot while pregnant is charged in fetus's death. Now she's not the one that shot the fetus, but she was the one who insinuated the fight between the woman that shot her
Oh,
fetus.
so she was shot
Yes,
and
she was
put
shot during the fight.
in the belly
Mhm.
by another person, but
Yes.
she
She is the-
started the fight.
She's started the fight, and she is the one
She
that is being-
survived, but the fetus died.
yes, and she is the one being charged for the fetus's death.
Mm. Wow.
Now, though the charge is for manslaughter, she's still being charged for
Right.
the fetus's death, which I don't know if that's ethically right. I understand the point that she was the one that started the fight, so she should be charged in some sense.
And this goes back to the conversation we had a few weeks ago when we talked about the government's role. Government's role is to protect people that can't protect themselves.
which in this case would be the fetus. Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
So somebody has to speak for the unborn baby.
Hmm.
I think the government's doing their job.
Yeah, the government is doing their job, but I still see that that woman got shot herself. I don't really think that it was. I don't think she deserves to be charged with manslaughter because
Really?
she was shot herself.
I think that this definitely would have played over differently if we were in a different state. If this case was in a different state,
Mm.
I think that the ruling would have come out differently.
A different state.
Mhm.
other
I
than
feel like, Alabama, since Alabama is a pretty,
it's a Bible thumping state.
yep.
Yeah.
mhm.
So, yeah, but all right. Well, all right. Well, that's interesting. You have that opinion, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think the again the people on the ground there, they have their local laws.
Mhm.
And they felt that obviously the prosecuting attorney felt that it met the standard for the charges, and so hopefully people will try to get themselves not into those situations.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll give you some pause for thought. But
Mhm.
all right, well, we thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.